a warm welcome. You're watching an India Today special broadcast. This is the Mood of the Nation Part 2. We're focusing today on the state of the Indian economy and what respondents in this India Today Mood of the Nation opinion poll think of the Modi government's handling of foreign policy, especially our two neighbors, China and Pakistan. Joining me in this analysis, my colleague in India Today magazine's editorial director publishing, Raj Chingappa. Welcome, sir. With us also on this broadcast, two senior ministers of the Modi Sarkar. HRD Minister Prakash Javadekar. With us also is Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. Welcome to both our guests. Representing the Congress on this broadcast is National Spokesperson Dr. Ajay Kumar. Also, for a neutral, independent, third-party perspective, we've got renowned economist Dr. Arvind Virmani. Welcome to all our guests. I want to start by looking at that one question about demonetization and what our respondents think of it. Did demonetization bring gain or was it a cause of pain? Let's show you the responses of the India Today Mood of the Nation opinion poll. Here they are on your screen right now. 32% of the respondents, which is less than one-third, think that demonetization brought gain to the Indian economy and to the people, whereas 61%, which is almost two-thirds of the respondents, think that demonetization was more pain than gain. So that's the one big finding. 32% saying it's gain, 61% thinking this is a cause of pain. Let's look now at the second question. Did demonetization cause gain or pain? And we asked the respondents to break this up on the following parameters. 1. Cause some pain but curb black money, that's 13%. 2. Cause some pain but led to less corruption, that's 6%. So not very high numbers on both these two factors. Both of the above options is 13%. But now let's start looking at the negative variables. Destroyed all businesses, 11%. Led to loss of jobs, 15%. Badly impacted farmers, 13%. All of the above, 22%. So a larger number of the respondents thinking that demonetization was actually bad for the economy and bad for them. I want to go across first and foremost to Dharmendra Pradhan, Petroleum Minister, joining us on this broadcast. So there are lots of very, very strong attributes about the Modi Sarkar which come out in this Mood of the Nation opinion poll. But the one thing that the government would be concerned about are these numbers about demonetization, because there's been so much talk of how the government believes that demonetization has been great for the Indian people. Our respondents in this survey don't seem very convinced. 61% suggesting that demonetization, sir, was more pain than gain.
No, there's nothing abnormal in that, because Prime Minister himself appealed to the people. There will be some pain, there is some pain, but on the greater interest and the benefit of the economy, benefit of the country's structured economy, we all have to cooperate, and I'm happy people have cooperated that, and from the day one nobody is disputing there are some inconveniences were there. But overall people have stood by that decision and there is no doubt on that.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the other big concern areas that come out very strongly in this opinion poll. One is about the government's failure to create jobs. 25% of the respondents think that the failure to create new jobs is the single biggest failing of the Modi Sarkar. Price of essential commodities comes in at number 2 at 22%. Farmer suicides comes in at 16%. Deterioration of India-Pak relations comes in at 9%. Mob lynching in the name of protecting the cow comes in at 8%. So if you ask people, what do you think are the negatives? Lack of jobs, price rise of essential commodities, farmer suicides, deterioration of India-Pak relations and mob lynching. Mr. Prakash Javadekar, you are HRD Minister, you are in charge of ensuring that Indians get a good education. My first question to you really is about jobs, because this poll throws up very starkly the concern people have when it comes to job creations. They simply don't believe that enough jobs are being created. They simply don't feel as if once they graduate from college, they'll have a job waiting for them, Minister.
No, actually, first, your results show that people have tremendous faith in leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Second, they also prefer and are happy with the way we are governing. Corruption-free good governance is what people wanted, and we are providing it. As far as employment is concerned, the recent McKinsey report, because the old statistics of only taking count of only government job creation is a lopsided thing. What we are creating jobs in service sectors is a tremendous growth, because India, when it grows at 7% plus, then your purchasing power grows phenomenally, and therefore Indian demand itself is creating millions and millions of jobs. More than 10 million people are skilled and all have been employed. So this is a new addition to what the so-called that statistics shows. Second, more important, that the digital India has created n number of job opportunities in all fields. It is Make in India which has created, because when you are having more and more FDI, you have more and more manufacturing, you are becoming, I stay in Pune. I know for certain that Pune has become a Detroit. It's a big auto car hub now. And so car and auto all put together has created couple of, not only thousands of jobs, lakhs of jobs in one city itself. So there are n number of jobs created.
Okay, this is something that we hear often from various representatives from the Modi government. Now I want to ask economist Arvind Varmani if he agrees, because we heard Piyush Goyal say the same thing, we've heard Arun Jaitley say this, we've heard Amit Shah say this as well, that in the way creation of jobs is currently measured, it doesn't capture the changing dynamics of the labor market, doesn't capture self-employment, doesn't capture how people are getting jobs under Skill India. The government says these metrics need to be redefined, and only then will they capture the full extent of job creation. Is that a facile argument, or do you believe that there is merit in that suggestion, Dr. Varmani?
So, speaking specifically to the issue of jobs, the only reliable survey we've had is a quinquennial survey. That means it comes out every 4 years. I think the last one was several years ago. So we don't really have what I would consider reliable data. What you have is limited surveys which are measuring certain parts of the economy. For example, that 4-sector survey is basically will capture kind of the organized sector, corporate plus exporters. You know, so it's true that the informal sector, the unorganized sector is comprehensively captured only by these sample surveys, which we don't have a recent one. Now, as far as reasons are concerned, I think by and large this growth of 7 to 7.5%, as has been mentioned, that is broadly correct, that it has been largely in the organized and less organized sector, the unorganized and less organized sectors, including services, of course. Where the weakness was there, one was in the rural agricultural space because of 2 consecutive droughts, and the normal monsoon last year and this year, we should see a change. If we don't see that, I expect that there will be a fairly strong recovery in jobs in the rural agricultural sector. And if we don't see that,
Dharmendra Pradhan,
then it will be a cause for really
see this question and the responses we got about whether people believe the government has been able to create jobs. Only 13% of the respondents in our survey are convinced that the government is being able to create jobs. 31% say the situation is the same. More than half the respondents, 53%, say the government hasn't been able to create jobs. So you can say that new jobs are being created, that the avenues of job creation are changing, but respondents don't seem to be buying that. Do you think that jobs are emerging as that one big factor that the government needs to look at very closely, Dharmendra Pradhan?
Rahulji, you will appreciate we got an system who have inherited a very hollow and very mismanaged. We got something in maize. From that point today the public sector spending is increasing. Banks are on track. Refinancing to the private sector has started. This will have its desirable impact at any time, and the job crunch is a world phenomenon today, but we cannot shy away from the basic responsibility we have. There are a lot of expectation and hope on this government regarding, if we go by the concern of the young generation of this country. But now, looking into the policy reform and policy initiative we have taken, I can cite one example: Mudra Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana is one of the biggest employment generator of the government. I can cite in my ministry we are opening 10,000 new LPG retail outlets that will create 1 lakh new employment. We all are on the process of doing that. We have already opened up certain outlets. By this financial year, the positive impact on employment growth you will see.
Okay. Raj Chingappa, is it fair for a distant observer to conclude that jobs and job creation is the one biggest worry for this government? It's got lots of things going for it, but if you were to look at the creases, not being able to create enough jobs, this supposed demographic dividend could turn into a demographic nightmare unless we're able to create more jobs.
Rahul, that is why on our cover we say mostly sunny, but chance of rain. And that rain, we are really looking at the economy and particularly the lack of jobs. And the perception, whatever the two ministers are saying, the perception is that this government is not creating the kind of jobs that people want or getting at all. So, Mr. Modi, despite the overwhelming majority that seems to vote for him, this is an area he has to deliver. I mean, it's a demographic fundamentalism. 3 areas: prices, corruption, jobs. He seems to have delivered on corruption, despite the fact that there's so much angst against demonetization, but there's a perception that he's doing something about it. On jobs and on farmers, that's the other key area. If prices are low, farmers' suicides, the problems that farmers face, these are too big. That means 2 major or 3 major constituencies are affected. One is the young, because they are the aspirational class. 2 is the farmers, that's 60 to 70% of the Indian population. And 3, if you look at the way the perception in terms of whether he's delivered on the other programs, there's a question that we've asked in that poll, is that they feel that hasn't been enough. So you are now having a very tricky situation when demonetization, where traders is one of the BJP's biggest supporters, they feel also let down in this.
That's a problem area, Prakash Javadekar ji, because the latest study put out by the Center for Monitoring of Indian Economy suggests that from January to April 2017, 1.5 million jobs were lost as a consequence of demonetization. And that again is something, would that worry the government, the fact that so many jobs have been lost and not enough jobs are being created? Do you see a problem building up there, Minister?
Yeah, I'll tell you. See, but he has not, when he is saying of job loss, he is not talking about a net job loss. There are additional jobs created in many other fields. He is specifically saying that because of a demonetization effect, what it can be. But demonetization was a huge success for many other reasons. Because your economy, which was parallel economy, has now mainstreamed, and that's the major gain. Therefore, you are seeing 25% rise in taxpayers. And when 25% people pay tax, start paying taxes, that means your revenue collection goes up and your investment goes up, and therefore jobs also in the ultimate analysis. So 1 quarter result of an economy from a particular viewpoint is not treated. As far as IT is concerned, let me tell you, IT has a peculiar nature, it's a peculiar industry nature, where there is always retrenchment to some extent, retraining to a major extent, and recruitment at a big chance. And every year, this year also, Chandrasekhar or ask any big companies, they are recruiting more than what they have retrenched.
Okay, Ajay Kumar, take a look at this data point, which suggests that 61% of the respondents think the demonetization is more pain than gain. and yet somehow the BJP seems to have been able to convince the electorate, most recently in Uttar Pradesh, that demonetization was a resounding success. On the ground, the voices may be different, but the Congress totally unable to channelize that anger in any way, Dr. Kumar.
No, look, Rahul, you're spot on. I mean, whether all opposition, we definitely have to. The demonetization was a nightmare, and there you got very distinguished ministers on the panel. But I'm amazed when they say that parallel economy, because the intent on demonetization was that there only out of the 15 lakh crores in circulation, only 11 will come back and 4 lakh crores will be extinguished. Till now, you know, the reports say that they got more than 15 lakh crores. So where was the parallel economy? The money's come back into the system. What they've eradicated is question mark. The other issue is the Honorable Minister said such 4 or 5 very interesting things. Mudra loan, they keep harping on it. Mudra loan is a refinancing loan, and it's only 1.5% of the total refinancing of all the PSUs and the microfinance institutions. The way they package the BJP and the BJP packages, it is amazing, and it's high time that, you know, we need to counter this kind of untruths. 65,000 crores was what was mutual fund microfinance institution released in 2013-14, and it has gone up to 80-90,000 crores. That's a fact. There has been an increase of 30,000 crores, but whether it is 1.4 lakh crores, whether it's created jobs, no. The minister said that 10 million jobs have been created, they have been employed. Their reply, the actual study is done, is only 5% of the total skill India is employable. So I don't know where they get their figures. The third, the digital India, now the government performance. 1 lakh villages were supposed to be connected by fiber optics. Their own government says we have only done 16,000. And if Prakash ji says Make in India is a success, I don't know why is the index of industrial production falling, and Pune may be, you know, Pune may be and I don't believe Pune is an exception. Across India, the manufacturing jobs are coming down.
Seema Rao wants to come in and respond, because the demonetization numbers from this survey suggest that people aren't quite as convinced about the success of demonetization as you'd like to have our viewers believe, GVL.
No, Rahul, this is in a sense misinterpreting what the voters are trying to tell you, and I'll explain to you how. You see, when you ask a person, did you gain or did you experience pain? At an individual level, you and I may not have gained personally. That is what they are saying. We have not gained personally. We have certainly experienced some pain. Had you asked them, was this decision in national interest? I can bet you the number would have been a staggering yes. 80% would have said yes, demonetization was the right decision. So when you ask someone whether you have gained personally or you experienced pain, the answer is likely to be pain. But that does not mean that people are disapproving of demonetization. I think that has been one of the most vital decisions that this government has taken, which has ensured that the BJP and Prime Minister's appeal transcends all economic and caste barriers. So I think that's something that needs to be interpreted carefully, one. Number two, the number of villages, panchayats that have been digitized under the Digital India program, connected with optical fiber network, is over 92,000 in the month of May. Today it may have crossed 1 lakh in the last 2 months. And it was less than 100 when the Congress was in power in 2014. Rahul. So I would request Ajay Kumar not to misquote numbers.
Okay, let's just move forward, because one second. This is not a regular debate show, so I don't want to get stuck just on one issue. I need to keep the wheel rolling so we can cover more ground and take all the data points that have been touched upon by the India Today Kavi opinion poll. I want to focus now on the Prime Minister's style of functioning. Respondents were asked, what is the one attribute that they attach to the Prime Minister and his style of functioning? Let's have those numbers up on your screen right now. The topmost attribute, according to our respondents, seem to be that the Prime Minister is a risk taker. 24% of the respondents say the PM is not scared of taking risks. Interestingly and worryingly for the government, coming in at number 2 with 23% are respondents who say the PM is all talk, no action. Just a 1% gap between those who think he's a risk taker and those who believe he's a lot of talk and very little action. 15% say he's pro-poor, 12% say he's anti-minority, 10% say he's sabka saath, sabka vikas. So that's interesting, Rachingappa. Maximum number of respondents think he's not afraid of taking risks. But right behind that are people who say, well, he's all talk, no action.
Well, it's both praise and a warning. Praise in the sense that you've had 2 or 3 major decisions during this poll period. You had, I mean, much earlier, the surgical strikes, where he took decisive action against terror. You know, then you look at demonetization, striking at the roots of black money. Then you have GST, which is the biggest single tax reform since independence. So all these were big risks that he took, because he knows, as we've seen in the poll, that there could be negative feedback happening on all these 3 fronts, and the economy could slow down. But if you look at the other aspect, and which is where he needs, and the government needs to do whatever it can do in the remaining 2 years, is you've got to deliver on the 99 programs or so that you've announced. People are saying, we are watching that benchmark, please deliver on those things.
Ji, do you believe that this is something the government needs to watch out for? That while more people believe that the Prime Minister is a risk taker, right behind that, at number 2, there are people suggesting that the PM is all talk, no action. 23% saying he's all talk, no action. Is that something the government has to be mindful of?
No, that's not a risk. No. This shows people are hungry for progress. People are hungry for rapid change. That's what they are expecting. And yes, to an extent, because earlier they were not hoping at all in UPA regime. UPA was neither talking nor doing anything. We are not only talking, we are doing large amount of things. If I start counting major things, what has changed? From a simple affidavit, which was now has become not affidavit, but even the attestation is now a self-attestation, is a big change. Even smaller things, the LED revolution, the LPG revolution, these have changed lives of many and millions of people. The Fasal Bima Yojana, today we are experiencing floods, fury of floods, and at the same time there is drought-like conditions in some states emerging. So, what is the answer? The comprehensive crop insurance scheme, which has first time has been brought by Narendra Modi ji, that is the only real solace to the farmer, because he gets fully compensated. So that's how things are moving in the right direction. And new irrigation scheme. Yesterday, Cabinet has decided to start North Coel project. Do you know, I was Environment Minister, this North Coel project, the dam was ready. The river is ready, the network of irrigation is ready, everything, farmers were ready, so everything was ready, gates were also there, sluice gate were on the spot, but suddenly in 1993, UPA government decided to abandon the project and did not fix the gates. We are doing that now. And so this will irrigate more than so many hectares of land in Bihar in major part and small part in Jharkhand. So this dam is in Jharkhand.
Ajay Kumar, this is something that seems to be a direct consequence of the kind of prime ministership that Dr. Manmohan Singh gave. That here you got a prime minister who takes some decisions, the ultimate end result of that decision may or may not be the way he would have thought it to be. But people still like that about Modi, because they think, okay, here's a man who's taking risks. The problem with Manmohan Singh was that he was seen as such a risk-averse person that even if the Prime Minister takes decisions which the opposition thinks are rushed or ill-conceived, respondents actually seem to like that. Ki bande mein jaan hai, risk leta hai.
You know, Rahul, it's very unfortunate that the guy who speaks the most and the loudest and, you know, and throws his arms the longest is perceived to be, and that's a perception. Mr. Manmohan Singh, what can you say about who can be more risk-taking when he staked the future of his government on the US nuclear deal? And I like what Mr. Javadekar, the Honorable Minister, says. We built the bridge in Assam. They just completed the last 10 meters, and yeah, they've done a lot of work. With the tunnel in Srinagar, they go around the last 2 meters and they built it. All the railway lines, the UPA, whether it is the mobile revolution, whether it is the liberalization, whether it's the greatest reduction in poverty, That has never happened, apparently, according to the BJP government. Even on corruption, I just want to say something. It is first time in the history where the corporates can give donation to political parties anonymously. And that is why they've got, the ECS today had to come and say, Rahul, that the politics of this country is heading towards the worst. Corporate donations are anonymous and the amount has been lifted. Who's benefiting? As of now, the Bharatiya Janata Party seems to have got a major chunk of it. But my question to the Honorable, my perspective is very simple. The Prime Minister has to walk the talk. They are very good in communicating. We got to give it to them. Have we been able to expose their fallacies and untruths? We need to do a much better job about it. But the fact is that there's no jobs. The fact is, you know, whether it is, they keep saying on digital, and I would challenge Mr. Rao. I don't want to get into these petty arguments. This is government record which says 16,000 villages have been connected. But the important part is the farmers are desperate. The minority communities are under stress. The social harmony, whether it is the Dalits, are under challenge. The young don't have jobs. So much as the government will keep harping on saying we have done the job on the ground. So the popularity, the seat winning cannot be equated with popularity, and we need to get our up our game much better. That's a fact of life, and we accept it.
The respondents still believe that if elections are to be held today, the BJP would sweep to power. The Congress would get only 3 more seats than it did in the 2014 elections. That's the reality. GVL wants to make a very quick interjection before I take a break. GVL, I give you 20 seconds because Dr. Kumar's made some direct responses. So respond to him and then I take a break. GVL.
Yeah. Rahul, when people give their perspectives, they take a macro view of things. What the summative picture that emerges from your survey is that the BJP, with a 35% vote share and the NDA close to about 45% vote share, has an approval rating of over 63%. So that shows the amount of goodwill that this government and Prime Minister enjoys. So that means our vote share can actually has the potential to go even far beyond. And that is the target our National President Shri Amit Shah has set for the party. Let me take a break, and when I come back, I'll try and answer that question, because BJP President Amit Shah has set a target of 350 plus. Will he be able to achieve that target? What do respondents think are the biggest successes of this government? And also, how do the people of India perceive the performance of this government when it comes to China and Pakistan? We'll get you those responses. We'll get reactions from Ministers Prakash Javadekar and Dharmendra Pradhan. This is the India Today Mood of the Nation opinion poll. And in part 2 of our broadcast, I want to focus on what people perceive are the biggest successes of the Modi government. Here they are, right at the top of the pack. When people were asked, what's the biggest success of the Modi government? This is what they told us. The fight against black money came at 23%. A corruption-free government came in at 14%. Demonetization, while people said, and that's where GVL I think has a point, people felt that demonetization was a pain, but they also think of this as one of the successes of the Modi government. Swachh Bharat came in at 11. Surgical strikes came in at 9. Now, one of the big concerns, Dharmendra Pradhan, when it comes to the big successes of your government, is that while the crackdown on black money is perceived as your biggest success, a lot of economists would argue that the results haven't been commensurate with the hype, that there's been a huge amount of hype around this fight against black money. But if you actually look at the bare-bone numbers, look at how much black money has actually come back to India, the figures aren't very substantial. So is this more perception management than delivery on the ground?
I don't want to respond this pity question from them, because the problem creator, those who are the main culprit of this economy mess in this country, due to frustration, people have rejected them in last election and subsequent elections. They don't have any substance and valid point to argue politically, so they are creating frivolous storm in the teacup. So I don't want to address them, but basic thing, what we have done regarding black money, the people have reposed their faith. In your survey also, people have reposed their faith. Yes, this government is a decisive government. This government has a capacity to take risk. This government has a capacity and political will to fight the corrupt people. whether they are from own community, whether they are from bureaucracy, whether they are some of the individuals, influential individual. So people of this country has immense faith in the deed of Prime Minister Modi on this front.
Dr. Arvind Varmani, what do you make of the fact that 23% of the respondents think that the fight against black money is the top attribute, the strongest positive aspect of this government, and also the corruption-free government? So those are seen as the two big strong attributes. Has the government, from an economic perspective, in your view, done enough for the fight against black money to really be the number one attribute of this government?
I think the objective of the government has been very clear. You know, right from the manifesto which talked about tax terrorism against corruption, if you remember, probably most people have forgotten, and then systematically in every year there has been something. Now, I wouldn't agree with everything that has been done. I think the corruption part, the e-governance and the digitization will help corruption. Some of those are better policies. Certain policies like tax reform, etc., will assist and are good. Some are not so good. So even though I don't agree 100% with all the things which have been done, various laws have been passed relating to Swiss bank accounts, etc., etc. Now, the details of each of these, I have problems with some elements of these things, but overall I think it is very clear that the government has had an anti-corruption bent, and I think it's been recognized by the poor. Sorry, not the poor, the survey, your survey, that these
point, because Dr. Ajay Kumar, the opposition can quibble about whether enough black money has come back to India or not. But in the eyes of the voters, in the eyes of the India Today respondents, the government has sent out a strong message. If you've got black money, we are coming after you. And that the voters seem to love about this government, that they're going after black money. Enough may not have been brought back so far, but that message is very strong and that message is clear.
Look, Rahul, the question again is, what are the facts? And I actually accept that the ability of the opposition, and which includes us, to explain to the public, and we are falling short on it. But whether it is the Lokpal, whether it's the whistleblower, whether it is the latest 50,000 scam of the under-invoicing of the Adani power project, or the innumerable corruption cases, and I don't want to outright disagree with a distinguished scholar like Mr. Vermani, but how can there be anything more less corrupt than allowing corporates with no limit and anonymous donation? When you are corrupting the whole political system by anonymity, what else is left? So my question is, God save India on that issue, and I feel very strongly on that point. When companies can be anonymous and you pass a law and the limit is removed, then all those companies who get favors and you make it totally untransparent, you don't need the whole political corruption is reached a place where the democracy is itself challenged. So my concern is very serious. Did we do a good job? No, we have not done a good job. We have not gone to the people and said that the greatest thrust and for the democracy is that corporate donations limit removed and anonymity allowed. How do we then, can you connect the dots with the favors? Can you connect the dots with the regulation changes you make? Can you connect the dots with the contracts you give to them?
You know that the Congress is speaking about a whole different opinion poll. This poll, for what it's worth, reflects the mood of the Indian nation as it is. And while you make the points that you do, you seem to be speaking about, GVL Narasimha Rao is laughing, but you seem to be speaking about a poll of your own, which is not the poll that India Today and Karvi have conducted. This is the poll that captures the pulse of the people at this time, and that's what you need to deal with. I want to focus now on that big question about China.
Rahul, I agree.
Just one by one. Let's just focus on China for a moment. How should India respond to China? And here at Chingappa, you've got 23% of the respondents saying that there must be negotiation. You've got 18% of respondents saying that there must be a stern warning that's sent to China. You've got 14% saying figure out a way of isolating China. Only 7% say go to war with China. So nobody wants war. End the China-Pakistan friendship is 4%, and 16%, which is a fairly high number, given the other percentages, say they don't know. So a very mixed signal here from the respondents?
Well, I thought it was a good response. You know, what I like most is...
Doesn't it seem like a confused response?
No. I think people are very clear. We really don't want to go to war with China over a border skirmish that is happening currently. But they are saying, let's negotiate. At the same time, don't yield. I mean, don't negotiate just because you want to have peace or settle it. Be firm, have alternate plans. So, and if you look at the way the government has handled it, despite the enormous provocation that China is doing, the rhetoric that they've built, the war cry that they seem to do, I think the Indian government, particularly the Ministry of External Affairs, been cool, very, measured in the response, pointedly, whenever there was an issue, they pointed out very politely that is there, and shunned from all that. And then very, very neatly began to make the economic threats, saying, you have some of the largest telecom companies, we could do something about that. You are selling power transmission equipment, we could change that. And I think the economic message, if you saw that Sushma Swaraj sent across, saying we do a lot of business with China when she spoke in Parliament, is an indication to tell China, cool off. We need to sort this out sensibly. We have, in the last 40 years or so, we've handled this problem pretty well. Why are you going off the top?
Prakash Javadekar, what do you think of the mixed responses? There's no one attribute which is being chosen by an overwhelming majority of the respondents. 23% say negotiate, 18% want to send a warning, 18% say boycott Chinese goods, 14% say isolate China. The one clear thing is only 7% say there should be a war. Apart from a war, there seems to be a high degree of uncertainty of which option is the best option to deal with China. Mr. Javadekar.
No, it's see, in an international diplomacy, I can appreciate if people are a little bit confused, but there is no two sentences that you are either in war or you are in total peace. There is a situation in between also, and you are peace. It's a long wait game, but we have stood our ground, and you have seen the result. So we are conscious, and country is very much safe and secured in the hands of Prime Minister, and I think that's the message. And people see what is the biggest capital of India. Our best capital is the trust of people in leadership of Narendra Modi. That is the real treasure of India, and there is lack of credible leadership in opposition. That's why they are confused. They are just negatively speaking, but they can't do anything. They are cut out of the people's, and therefore demonetization. People are with us, poor is with us, and they are with those who are dishonest. The same thing happened in GST. GST, the whole country rollout was so smooth, and they created so louder a noise. After actually participating and after actually agreeing to the law, rates and rules, all were drafted by Congress chief ministers also, Congress finance ministers also. 6 of them were participating, but they refused and they did a volte-face on the eve of Parliament. But finally, wisdom prevailed and unanimously bill was passed.
The one message,
people want country to grow faster.
The one message that's going out, Dr. Ajay Kumar, very clearly is people want the government to hold firm. Nobody is suggesting at all that they want India to buckle under Chinese pressure, and that's the point that Raj Chingappa makes, Dr. Kumar, that despite huge levels of provocation, the Modi government has held firm in the face of immense adversity, in the face of immense pressure from Pakistan. They've held firm, and that really is to their credit.
Look, Rahul, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but none of us are entitled to own facts. The fact is that the opposition is much more mature. If you remember what Mr. Prime Minister Modi, before he became Prime Minister, and how the BJP used to react on national issues, I'm really worried if the similar China situation would have happened if the UPA government was there. What would be their statement, which would have led to a tremendous amount of showing the non-consistency.
You want to respond to that?
The Chinese,
that's a provocative response from the Congress, saying the opposition is being responsible and sensible. If the BJP were in opposition, they would have said, "Das sar kaat ke lao." Just because you're in government, you don't say any of that.
Rahul, no, I think possibly Mr. Ajay Kumar is not keeping track of Rahul Gandhi's statements. I think let him go and study what Rahul Gandhi said about China. I think only a couple of days ago and even yesterday he had made some very unwise comments about it. So I don't think we can grant that kind of maturity to the opposition today. But the response of the people to this poll, I would say, is very mature and measured, as has been the case with the government. So there was nothing, there was no jingoism, there was no in-your-face kind of commentary. We have really, the government has held its position in a very mature and a measured manner, even as we put forth our views in a very, very clear-cut manner. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, I think maybe you will have some results to show. We have really isolated Pakistan on international level, and certainly diplomacy of this government has been a huge success. I am sure the people of the country, when you talk to them when I'm in the field, the first thing that they say is Prime Minister Modi ji has really made us proud as Indians all over the world. That's the first thing that people say without you inquiring about it. And I hope there is a reflection of that in your poll as well.
Very quickly, I want to move to the last part. Ajay, quickly.
Rahul, there has been 240 border crossing by the Chinese this year. The fact is that how are we, the government's performance in terms of whether it's Nepal, whether it is in terms of Bangladesh, whether it's in terms of Sri Lanka, those are questions. And when we really entreat the government to, and whatever the government takes steps in terms of national interest, our issue is very clear is, the same jingoism operates, the same Badbolapan operates on one side of the border, and on the other side, please don't make, border issues and national security.
What do you make of the responses on China and the fact that there seems to be a very split opinion on which is the best course of action against our neighbor from beyond the Himalayas?
Rahulji, let me appreciate your survey, but let us not jump to conclude everything on a opinion poll. Certain things are, some diplomatic requirements are there. Certain things are very structure. We have to face the challenge in the border. I think we are confident of our army. They are taking care of the border, and our diplomatic channel, our competent authority, those who are assigned the job, they are doing fine job. And little bit I know about the Chinese engagement from our side, whether it is diplomatic front or economic front or at the border. I think India's interests are intact, and we are confident we can handle any kind of situation. And defense ministers categorically again and again reiterated one issue: there is nothing to fear. Year of 62, remembrance of 62 is over.
Okay, in the last part of this broadcast, I want to focus on the overall big picture. If elections were to be held right now, what would the new Lok Sabha look like? Amit Shah has a mission 350 plus. I'm not quite clear whether that's 350 plus for the BJP or 350 plus for the NDA. I assume it's 350 plus for the BJP because 382 is what they had in the last election themselves. But anyway, here it is. The NDA is projected by the pollsters at Kavi to bag 349 seats. Out of these, the BJP will get 298. Remember last time they had 282. So this is 16 more than what they got in the 2014 elections. The Congress from 44 likely to go up to 47. That's a gain of 3, whereas the others will be at 198. Prakash Javadekar, does it seem to you that the battle for 2019 could be over even before it actually begins? Is the BJP already past the winning line?
See, we don't take for granted anything. We believe in fighting it out for a good cause of betterment of nation, and therefore we'll strive very hard to make success much more glorious than what is predicted today.
Let me now show what the scenario would be if the Janata Dal United were to get added to the NDA. Remember, this poll was done in July, and Rajchingappa can explain this in a moment. This is when Nitish had not joined the NDA. If he does, then the India Today Mood of the Nation suggests that the NDA could bag 421 of 543 seats. Game over, that is.
But I would take that with a bit of, caution. We really don't know. We're just adding numbers. But the poll never asked this question. The poll stopped. I mean, when we took the poll, Nitish Kumar hadn't switched sides. Now, we don't know the adverse reaction that could come from the electorate if they really perceived that his move is right or wrong.
No, but can I counter-argue Ajay Kumar by saying that if you look at what's happening on the ground, at this time in Chennai, OPS and EPS are coming together. Amit Shah will be landing later this month on the 23rd. And it's possible that the AIADMK also joins the NDA. You've got the Janata Dal United on the NDA as well. Instead of the opposition coming together, parties which would have otherwise been part of the opposition are jumping over and joining the government. That doesn't speak well for the opposition, does it?
Rahul, it's very interesting that when you look at every kind of, you're looking at isolation as NDA in the present form, and I'm saying that the survey as of today is the correct survey, I mean, based on all the methodology we used. How does whether the DMK is a very strong party, whether the DMK is going to sweep Tamil Nadu? Most probably yes. What will happen with Mamata Banerjee and the Congress and the Communist Party together? We still don't know. What will happen with the other opposition parties? So the question again is, whether we need to
we don't know that. That's absolutely true, which is why we have the India Today mood of the nation, which is essentially a barometer of what the mood of the nation is at this time. What the mood of the nation is come, when does our next poll happen? January, around
6 months.
Republic Day?
But Rahul, I just want to quickly make a point as this thing is that if you take the percentage of votes, 42% is what NDA gets, 35% is what BJP gets. Now, if the opposition has any chance, it has to mount much more, which requires the kind of unity that so far they have not shown.
Oh, absolutely. It's getting tougher and trickier for a fragmented opposition as more and more parties jump onto the NDA bandwagon, which as of now seems the winning bandwagon. I want to thank all our guests, Ministers Prakash Javadekar and Dharmendra Pradhan, for joining us on this broadcast. Also, Dr. Ajay Kumar, GVL Narasimha Rao, Dr. Arvind Virmani, Raj Chingappa, and his team have put out the latest edition. You want to hold out that magazine once more. Quick plug for the magazine. There it is. It's out in stands now. Read the article for the full analysis. Thank you very much for tuning in.